is that the government may appoint KPMG as transaction advisor for IDBI Bank's stake sale. So that's what we are picking up. Once again, it's news flow regarding the stake sale, stake purchase in IDBI Bank. Let's hear out what Tushar. Okay, let's go across to the management at IOL Chemicals. They are now with us. They had their con call earlier. Sir, thank you so much for taking out time for us. Could you just tell us about the paracetamol, ibuprofen prices? What's really happening over there? You think Q1 was one of the worst pricing that you've seen in really a while?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Q1 was certainly the bottomed out of the pricing, and we do expect that the pricing has bottomed out. We do expect muted pricing. Maybe it'll edge up somewhat in this quarter. But Q3 and Q4, from all the conversations we've had with our customers, promise to be pretty good.
Right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chaturvedi. This is Cheryl also joining in the conversation. Talking about your exports then, how did they pan out in the quarter that has gone by, and what's the prospect going ahead for the exports?
Okay. So the quarter gone by, our exports were down. Normally, our exports are about 30% of our total revenue. In this past quarter, these numbers were down to about 20%. And a lot of it is really COVID related and also related to the enhanced pricing that we see in shipments. So, shipment pricings have been really crazy and they've gone up between 200 and 300%. So what the customers are really doing is they are not canceling orders, but they are deferring offtake as much as they can to be in sync with better shipping rates. And we do expect that this year for the Christmas season, the shipments have gone out earlier, and therefore by the end of this quarter, the shipping prices should come back to more normal levels. And so we do expect that this quarter as well, we will have muted exports, probably maybe 20% or so. And then in the end of Q3 and Q4, we do expect good export numbers.
When we just talk about how things are moving on the ground, what's happening in terms of pricing, with the COVID, now being there, you think people have accepted the fact that prices going ahead for medical equipment can be higher? Is that something which most of the, people worldwide for APIs are now providing?
Yes, it really depends on the category. So, if you look at paracetamol pricing in the earlier part of the COVID, the numbers had shot up dramatically. In fact, even last year, even in ibuprofen, the numbers were very high. So a lot of APIs, the pricing went up, particularly any product that goes into COVID-related or COVID management. But now those prices have started to come down. And in many of these products, those prices have bottomed out. So we do feel that going forward, this bottoming out of prices is also unsustainable because the companies, the large players in some of these product categories have declined their margins. And so therefore, if you look at, a couple of weeks ago, the government of India revised the ibuprofen price for the formulations up by about 56%. So we do believe that going forward, once we establish a new equilibrium, the prices will inch up.
Right. So when we just talk about really how things are moving in terms of demand for raw material, how things are moving in terms of supply, how would you say the raw material situation is? Is it completely normalized? If you have to increase production, if prices go up, there is no problem to meet the availability via production?
So, again, it's a very broad question that you've asked me. Let me talk specifically on ibuprofen, which is our flagship product. There is no issue with the raw material supply scenario. On the demand side, however, there was a bit of a softening because our customers, particularly in Europe, overstocked in the earlier part of last year. And therefore, the Q1 for this year had muted results. But we do believe, based on the conversations we are having with customers, that the offtakes will be very good in Q3 and Q4 of this year.
In terms of China plus one, how do you think that is helping the Indian industry? Are you seeing repeat demand from customers that were earlier not your customers? They are trying to give you more demand so that if there is another disruption, they have 2 or 3 suppliers versus one earlier?
I would say the China plus one strategy is a good one depending on the products that you pick. So let me talk at a broad level. What is happening in the market is, yes, a lot of Indian players saw their demand go up because the overseas customers were demanding a China alternative. But now that China is back, you really have to compete with those prices. So products where you will be competitive in terms of pricing, the China plus one strategy will win out. Else, you will have to make do with, sharing the product demand with the manufacturers from China.
All right, point taken. Thank you, Mr. Chaturvedi. We'll leave it at there. Thank you for joining us on the show and giving us a take on the way ahead for the company. That was Mr. Sanjay Chaturvedi, who is the Chief Executive Officer of IOL Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals.